Tonight, a 24-year-old U.S. Army soldier is accused of sharing bomb-making instructions over Facebook and talking about blowing up an unidentified major news network. According to two sources, the network he named was CNN. He also talked about killing members of the far-left group Antifa and destroying cell towers or a local news station, according to the affidavit. Prosecutors say Jarrett William Smith, while stationed at Fort Bliss in Texas and Fort Riley in Kansas, was discussing building bombs and conducting attacks. The FBI began tracking Smith on Facebook in March, but soon discovered Smith's conversations on social media discussing desires to fight and engage in violence dated all the way back to 2016, before Smith enlisted in the military. The feds say Smith sought out another man who had traveled to Ukraine to fight with the Right Sector, a violent right-wing paramilitary group. That man allegedly mentored Smith and prepared him to fight. The criminal complaint shows Smith stressed his desire to fight in Ukraine 1 year before he enlisted with the U.S. Army. Smith said, "No former military experience, but if I cannot find a slot in Ukraine by October, I'll be going into the Army. To fight is what I want to do."
This case shows a level of motivation that we don't always see in investigations, and that is someone who is so intent on causing harm and loss of life, he doesn't care where it's going to take place, either here domestically or internationally. This person was looking for a target to kill.
Smith joined the U.S. Army 1 year later in June 2017, but his plans to fight or blow up something only seemed to intensify. In a Facebook group chat in December 2018, Smith allegedly said, "I got knowledge of IEDs for days. We can make cell phone IEDs in the style of the Afghans." The FBI used a confidential source and an undercover employee to talk online with Smith in August and September of this year. Smith allegedly discussed targeting the headquarters of an undisclosed major American news network with a large vehicle bomb. An FBI bomb tech who analyzed his plan says the bomb would not have worked. Smith also elaborated on his plans to build weapons from everyday materials, saying, "Making AK-47s out of expensive parts is cool, but imagine if you were going to Walmart instead of a gun store to buy weapons." He allegedly gave very specific instructions for constructing an explosive device, which the FBI says would have been viable if correctly built. And he referenced presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke when asked by the undercover agent if he could think of any politician who would be a good target in Texas, according to prosecutors. Smith allegedly asked, "Outside of Beto?"
The FBI brought in bomb technicians who were apparently so concerned with his level of sophistication, they wanted to run to ground exactly what he was capable of doing, again, in order to stop a potential threat to the public.
Everybody's looking for that call.
President Trump's place on the world stage overshadowed tonight by questions about his conduct during a phone call with a foreign leader.
We had a perfect phone call with the president of Ukraine.
Trump insists he didn't cross a line with the president of Ukraine, after confirming he did bring up former Vice President Joe Biden and his son during the call.
The one who's got the problem is Biden.
Aides denied reports he pressured Ukraine to investigate his political rival, though Trump is publicly accusing the former vice president of corruption tied to his son's business activities.
If a Republican ever did what Joe Biden did, if a Republican ever said what Joe Biden said, they'd be getting the electric chair by right now.
Biden says Trump is abusing his power to smear him and should release the transcript.
Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum.
Trump's admission has reignited Democratic calls on Capitol Hill for his impeachment. Warnings Trump dismissed today.
It's just a Democrat witch hunt. Here we go again.
He may not be worried, but he also hasn't committed to releasing the whistleblower's report to the intelligence committees as the law mandates.
Willing to clear this up by releasing the whistleblower report, sir?
Quiet.
Instead, he questioned the patriotism of that whistleblower, asking if the person is on our country's side. One question surrounding the call is whether or not Trump threatened to withhold millions in military aid if Ukraine didn't investigate Biden and his son.
Did the president threaten to cut off aid to the Ukraine?
No, that was a false story.
100%.
Well, I can't tell you if it's 100%.
Because his attorney may not be sure, but Trump insists he didn't.
I put no pressure on them whatsoever. I could have.
Critics say the question could be cleared up if the White House released the transcript of the call.
Perhaps you'll see it, perhaps you won't see that. It depends on what we want to do.
While the White House debates releasing it, Aides are struggling to explain how Trump can attack the international business dealings of his rivals' children when his own children profit from businesses he still owns.
I'm not going to speculate on that.
I don't understand. So it's okay for Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump to do business all over the world. It's okay for Ivanka Trump to have copyrights approved all over the world while President Trump is president. But while Vice President Biden was vice president, his son shouldn't have been able to do business dealings?
Again, I don't really want to go into more of these details.
Amid the firestorm, Trump abandoned plans to skip the climate summit at the United Nations today.
He's not going to be there.
I wouldn't be surprised if he popped in and stopped by.
Instead, sitting in for just under 15 minutes.
President Trump admits he did discuss former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter in a phone call with Ukraine's new president over the summer.
Conversation I had was largely congratulatory, was largely corruption, all of the corruption taking place, was largely the fact that we don't want our people, like Vice President Biden and his son, creating to the corruption already in the Ukraine.
The Democratic frontrunner responding on the campaign trail.
The House should investigate this. This appears to be an overwhelming abuse of power. To get on the phone with a foreign leader who is looking for help from the United States and ask about me and imply things if that's what happened.
The president's closest advisors demanding investigations into Biden despite no evidence of wrongdoing by the Biden family.
I do think if Vice President Biden behaved inappropriately, if he was protecting his son and intervened with the Ukrainian leadership in a way that was corrupt, I do think we need to get to the bottom of that.
President Trump telling reporters Sunday he hopes officials will release details of the call, but some advisors urging the opposite.
I think that would be a terrible precedent. Conversations between world leaders are meant to be confidential.
A source telling CNN the call with the Ukrainian president was part of the initial whistleblower complaint, which raised concerns about multiple actions. The White House still refusing to turn that complaint over to Congress. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sending a letter to all members of Congress calling the stonewalling a serious possible breach of constitutional duties by the president, adding that if it continues, they will be entering a grave new chapter of lawlessness, which will take us into a whole new stage of investigation.
I don't know whether the whistleblower complaint is on this allegation, but if it is, and even if it isn't, why doesn't the president just say release the whistleblower complaint? Clearly, he's afraid for the public to see either one of those things.
CNN has learned that Pelosi and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff were in close coordination all weekend, formulating a strategy on how to proceed, as some Democrats blame Congress for not starting the impeachment process sooner.
You know, I have been very reluctant to go down the path of impeachment. But if the president is essentially withholding military aid at the same time that he is trying to browbeat a foreign leader into doing something illicit, that is providing dirt on his opponent during a presidential campaign, then that may be the only remedy.